Hello, this is a short presentation on Lab 602. So if you look at the study guide, you can go ahead and find this on page 7, Lab 602, and it's user and group permissions. So if you want a refresher, if you don't feel you really know the theory and the generalities, then go ahead and surf to this link and read that and study that. And then I talk about the difference of the different commands, and I show you the man pages so you can see official man pages from Ubuntu, so you can see the add user documentation. And you're going to do these user and group permissions on router, the router container. So if you go to the root directory, you'll see some files, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Let's say we're going in the lab and we want to build the system. I've already built the networks and the images, so we have to build the containers. And after that's done, if we go to Tmux, I'll show you what's going on here. So let's get the tabs. We're doing it on router, so we're going to go over to number 6, Control B, 6. And we don't have any hints files, so you can actually just follow the documentation, do it yourself. But if you need some hints and help, watch what we do. We're gonna let's see. We're gonna copy some files over there. So we're gonna go back to our main area, and there's something called copy files. So let's run that script, and that's gonna give us hints and solutions. And then we're gonna go right back with a Control B6. And now watch what happens when I do a list. There's some lab hint files. So we're doing lab 602. So this file contains some information. So the idea is when you get stuck, not before, when you get stuck, then you look at that file and you try to use that file just enough so that you get your hints you need, you get things figured out, and you can go on to the next step. And you might hit another problem, and then you go back to the file. And when you run that copy files, you can see we have hints for each of the labs, and different machines will have different hints. Since the router is used on lab 602, 3, and 4, we've got them all here, but let's go over to the client and see what's going on there. Control B at 5, that brings us to the client list, and you can see we have lab 605 hints. So that's basically it. We'll go back to the router, and we'll look at those hints there. And we have a whole bunch of hints, so it's dramatic. So all the hints you might want, and it goes on. But that's basically it. I mean, I'm not going to give you too much more than that. But that's the lab 602, and the idea is once you create the users and the groups and the directories and the files and you set the permissions, then I'd like to get a listing and actually a tar file, but you can just read the study guide for that. And when you're done, as it states in the study guide, you create the zip and you upload the zip to a special folder or a special assignment in Canvas. I said to show you a little bit more, so I'll clear the screen, list of files. The main one is the lab 602, and if you looked inside, one of the commands is add user. So that's one of the commands you're going to need to use to add a few users. And why don't I bring this file over here? So I just talked about add user. So the syntax is add user student, and then to avoid having a prompt so you can write in a script, we need to use the GCOS, and then we can put in a bunch of information. And we disable the password initially, and then we immediately set the password, and that's to avoid a prompt so we can write things in a script. So you will, this is basically how you use it. And then we're echoing the password for the student 25 as Cisco 123 is the password, and then we change the password. So first we disable it, and then we enable it by changing the password. So that's adding a user. Now, what you'll find in practice is when you write scripts to do things, you have to write scripts to undo things. So when you're testing, you might want to delete all the users. So here's a script, for example, to delete the users and also to remove the home directories. That way, when you're doing your testing and you want to start from scratch, you don't have to build a new system. You just need to delete the users. And right after you delete them, you can run your script again to add them all. Well, that's just creating the users. Then you need to create directories for the different users. And the switch-p will create the whole tree structure. So you could have like a list of 10 directories here, and the level 2, 3, 4, all the last 5 directories don't exist. You don't have to create each directory manually. You can just say -p and it'll create the whole list. So we're basically creating some directories for the anonymous user. And the anonymous user is often used in internet service, like for web services. People don't have to give a user ID password to log into your system. They can just get web pages directly. That's anonymous. So we might want to have a user tied to that. And for the anonymous, maybe for the anonymous user, we want to share information with students, with teachers, etc. And we can create different directories to share that, and then we'll have to set the permissions later. So I've created some directories where the anonymous user may wish to share their files. A student may wish to share their files. Like the student might want to share files with the teachers so they can grade their work. That'd be an example. So we're making directories, and then touching files. If you touch a file, the idea is if it doesn't exist, it's created. And I'm putting like different attributes at the end so you have a clue as to in what way it'll be shared. This is read-only. And then we do the same for Todd and for Timo. And then after we're all done with that, we need to set the permissions on the files. And I've given some examples on how to set permissions on different files. And when you're all done, you want to list the directories and all the files and the permissions. And there's also a magic command tree. It doesn't list permissions, but it's really good at having a high-level overview of a directory structure. So give tree a chance. So try tree on /home and see what you get. Well, there you go. That's a walkthrough on the hints and solution, but hopefully you can try it on your own without too many hints. You can Google to get answers, but when you're totally stuck, I've got this cheat sheet here for you to help you out. Bye now. Hope you like it.